Today we'll be looking at reading and writing decimals. Some place value basics. First, let's start with this number. This number, if I ask you to read it, some people may say 142.765. Others would say that's silly. It's 142.765. And then others may respond, well, it's 142 and 765 thousandths. Now, in order to be able to give that last answer, which is, by the way, the best answer and the proper way to mathematically read this number, you must understand a few basics. One is that whenever you have a decimal symbol, that stands for and. Okay, to the left of the decimal, you have your ones place, then you have your tens, and then you have your hundreds. All right, that's more of a review. We know that. Now, it's really the right side is where I'm going to focus today, and that is, how did I know that I was going to finish this number up by saying 765 thousandths? Well, the first part is the 765. You actually read the numbers to the right of the decimal the same way that you would read the numbers to the left of the decimal, with the exception of one thing. After you read 765, there is a word that we must add, okay? And that has to do with what is the place value of that 5. Whoops, forgot the value. Right? And I will show you a little trick that I've been using for as long as I can remember that helps me remember which place value is which. So let's look at the number. We have here 7.423. Now, in order for me to be able to read this properly, I need to understand place value. All right, so what I have here is I made a little mini place value chart to help us. We have the ones place, and then we have our decimal. And then here's the important part. It goes tenth, then hundredth, then thousandth. Now, what I want you to look at is, what pattern do we see? And what you should notice is it starts with a 10, we have 1 0. Then it goes to 100, so we add a 0. Then it goes to a thousandth, then we add a 0. So as we move further along in place value, we are adding zeros. Now, let's look at another thing these zeros tell us. So here our tenths place is one number to the right of the decimal. Has 1 0. Our hundredths place has 2 zeros and is the second number to the right of our decimal. And our thousandths place has 1, 2, 3 zeros, and it is 3 digits or 3 place values away from that decimal point. And what I do is I look, and in this number 7.423, to help me read it properly, my 3 is 1, 2, 3 away from my decimal point, so I know that it's going to be in the thousandths. So when I read this number, I will read it 7 and 423 thousandths. Now let's take a look at this next set of questions. Now we're doing the opposite. Now I'm giving you the words, and we need to write our decimals. So we have 3 and 7/10. So it starts, we have a 3. Whenever you have the word and is the word that represents our decimal point, then we have 7/10. Now, if you notice, I wrote the fraction value of what tenth means too. This will help me with my place value. Since there is 1 0, I know it's one digit to the right of the decimal, so 7/10 would be 3.7. So my 7 in this case is worth 0.7, or you could say 7/10. Decimal's fine. Now our next number, we have 24 hundredths. Now we don't have a whole number. All right, so we know it's going to be 0. It will be our whole number. Now I need to figure out where to put our decimal. Hundredths. That means we have 2 zeros or 2 place values here. And since our number is 24, this ends up being pretty simple for us, and it becomes 0.24 or 24 hundredths. So the 4, in this case, it was worth 0.04 or 4 hundredths. And our final question, we have 531 thousandths. Now, thousandths as a fraction is 1 over 1,000, or 3 zeros. So I know that I will have 3 place values to represent, and it's 531. So it works out perfect. I have a 3-digit number, 531, and I have 3 spots to write my number. So I write 531. And whoops, I meant to write, instead of the 4, what is the 1 worth? And the 1 is worth 0.001, or 1,000th. We're going to finish up with a place value puzzle. Make the following changes to the number 3 and 524 thousandths. Make the 3 worth 1/10 as much. So we are going to take 3 times 1 over 10. This equals 3/10. So that means my 3 in the ones place now is going to scoot over to the tens place. Let's look at the 5. I need to make that 10 times as much. So now I have 5/10 times 10 equals 50 over 10, which gives me 5. Make the 2 worth 1/10 as much. So, like what happened before, the 3 actually moved down a place, so my 2 looks like it's going to move over a place to the thousandths. And this makes sense because the 2 is 2 hundredths, and I'm multiplying that by 1/10, so that will equal 2 thousandths. And since the last spot that's open is the hundredths place, we know that the 4 will then bump up because the 4 thousandths will become 40 thousandths, which is another way to say 4 hundredths. A less mathematical approach, and if you look at it more as a pattern, if you make it 1/10 as much, it will move 1 place value to the right. If you make it 10 times larger, when you increase a number, it moves left 1 place value.